To do this work proficiently, you will need to be good at manipulating positive and negative numbers. Now this work involves substituting numbers for the letters in an expression, or to put it more mathematically, evaluating an expression given the value of the variables. And of course there's a whole range of levels of difficulty involving squaring, cubing, square roots, fractions and so on. So let's begin with a simple example. Find the value of 3y plus 7 when y is 4.5. Now remember that 3y means 3 multiplied by y, so this expression becomes 3 times 4.5 plus 7. Remembering to do multiplications before additions, this gives 13.5 plus 7, which of course is 20.5. Now here's a harder example. Find the value of 6 times p subtract 9 times p squared plus 3 when p is 6. Substituting p equals 6 in this expression gives 6 times 6 subtract 9 times 6 squared plus 3. And working out the square in the second bracket first, we get 6 times negative 3 times 39, and that comes to negative 702. You just need to work carefully and logically, one step at a time. So let's try one with a fraction. Find the value of 7g squared plus 8g over 6g squared subtract 8g when g is 8. Here we work out the numerator of the fraction and the denominator separately. Now 7g squared plus 8g evaluates to 7 times 64 plus 64, remembering to square the g before multiplying by the 7 of course, and that is 512. The denominator, 6g squared subtract 8g, comes to 6 times 64 subtract 64, which is 520. The fraction is now 512 over 320, and this cancels to 8 over 5, which is 1 3/5, or if you prefer, 1.6. Just a small point here. In examinations, equivalent answers are allowed, providing the question doesn't ask you for the answer in a particular form. So 1 3/5 and 1.6 are both perfectly valid answers. Because of the greater use of calculators these days, many people assume that answers should always be given as decimals, but that's just not true. Now, it's a simple extension from what we've been doing to problems with more than one variable, as the next example shows. Find the value of the square root of 3rst when r is 4, s is negative 6 and t is negative 2. First we calculate the expression in the bracket, so we have the square root of 3 times 4 times negative 6 times negative 2, and that's the square root of 144. You'll notice that the two negative signs mean the answer is positive when we're multiplying, of course. So now we've got to find the square root of 144, which I'm sure you'll realise is 12. Now you'll remember that all square roots of positive numbers have two answers, a positive one and a negative one. For example, the square root of 9 is 3, but it can also be negative 3. However, the square root sign means only the positive answer, so the value we're after here is the positive 12. If we wanted to include the negative answer too, we would need to put a positive or negative sign in front of the question, like this. And then the answer would be positive 12 or negative 12. And that's it really. As I said earlier, just work through carefully step by step and you shouldn't have any trouble with these at all, providing you're pretty good at manipulating the positive and negative numbers.